Dr. Solomon, and he is going to talk on is non-classicality breaking the same thing as entanglement breaking.
So first of all, I would like to thank the organizers for organizing this wonderful meet. So I will be talking today on this topic: is non-classicality breaking the same thing as entanglement breaking? So there is this notion, this entanglement breaking notion is known. So we introduced this notion of non-classicality breaking and then asked the question as to whether this is the same as entanglement breaking, and we resolved this issue for Gaussian channels. So this work was done with Professor Simon and my junior Krishna Kumar. So this is the outline of the talk. So first I will give some motivation, and then I will go to a brief discussion on continuous variable states, and then introduce S-ordered quasi-probabilities. Meaning this S-ordered quasi-probabilities give a description of continuous variable states, and then I will briefly introduce Gaussian states, and then introduce Gaussian channels. Then I will define, give formal definition for non-classicality, and then entanglement, and then to the definition of entanglement breaking, followed by the definition of non-classicality breaking, and then I will introduce non-classicality based canonical forms for Gaussian channels, and then go on to obtain necessary and sufficient conditions for non-classicality breaking, and then establish the equivalence between entanglement breaking and non-classicality breaking for Gaussian channels. So this is the rough outline of the talk. Okay, so let me go to the motivation. So the notion of non-classicality is well known and has been studied in the context of quantum optics through the Sudarshan diagonal representation. Entanglement, on the other hand, is even older, and it has acquired tremendous interest in the recent past, the context of quantum information. Now, several works have explored the relationship between these two concepts. So it is known that every entangled state is non-classical, but people have explored when is a non-classical state entangled and so on. Like, can you say give conclusive tests and assert when is a non-classical state entangled? So that was the kind of exploration people have done. Now we explore the relationship from the channel perspective. Okay, so this will become clear as we go through the talk. Okay, let me now come to continuous variable states. So consider a single mode of radiation field. It's characterized by, say, mode operators A and A dagger, and A and A dagger satisfy this commutation relation. So here n is a Fock state, which is creation operator n times by root n factorial acting on the ground state, for instance. So, and then you can define the position and momentum operators in the following manner. So A is, so if x is position and p is momentum, then A is xa plus ip by root 2, and similarly A dagger is xa minus ip by root 2. So we are interested in mixed states of such systems, and there's no here I have restricted to just a single mode. So you can have more modes. In fact, you can consider like xb, pb, and so on. Okay, so now to S-ordered quasi-probabilities. So the state of a quantum mechanical system can be described in terms of the S-ordered characteristic function and equivalently in terms of S-ordered quasi-probability. So what you do is you define the displacement operator in this manner. That's so in terms of the A's and A daggers as an exponent, and then you take the trace of rho with this d of xi comma s, to arrive at the characteristic function. And the Fourier transform of the characteristic function gives the S ordered quasi probability. Now, so this is S is a parameter, so which can take values between say -1 and +1, and say for instance S equal to 1 corresponds to the diagonal function, diagonal P function, Sudarshan's global Sudarshan P function, and 0 for instance corresponds to the Wigner function, and Q corresponds to -1, the order parameter is equal to -1. So, here the idea is that all information in rho is contained in the characteristic function equivalently in terms the S ordered quasi probability. So now so we need Q function is a special enjoys a special status with regard to S ordered quasi probabilities, in the sense that it's always pointwise positive in the complex plane. Now, so that is Q function alone is a genuine probability, and but converse is not true. Every genuine probability is not a Q function, and all other S ordered quasi probabilities assume some negative values for some alpha, at least for some states in the complex plane. Now, the characteristic function of a state rho for two different values of S, for instance S1 and S2, are related in this manner. So you take the characteristic function of S2 and multiply it with this Gaussian factor, you get a characteristic function of order S1. So Gaussian states, these are states whose characteristic function is Gaussian, and all information regarding them is contained in their first and second moments. So you arrange the quadrature operators in this, calculate the anti-commutator of the mode operators in this manner, and take the expectation value, you get the variance matrix, and variance matrix obeys the uncertainty principle. Okay. And now let me come to the question of Gaussian channel. So these are physical processes that map Gaussian states to Gaussian states. So for instance, you start with an input state with variance matrix V. The action of a Gaussian channel can be described in this manner, that is, V is taken to some V prime which is X transpose Vx plus Y, where Y is deemed as a noise matrix, and Y is positive semi-definite, and X and Y have to necessarily satisfy this additional constraint so that you have a channel. So this is the complete positivity requirement, and when this inequality is saturated, we have a quantum limited Gaussian channel. So for an arbitrary state, the characteristic function, for instance, the symmetric characteristic function is taken to chi-rho of xi times this exponent factor, Gaussian factor. Okay, now for the notion of non-classicality, so it's well known that any state of a single mode of radiation can be expanded in this manner in the coherent state basis. So Za is the coherent state and rho A is diagonal in the coherent state basis. So classical states are identified as those states for which the diagonal weight function is pointwise positive in the complex plane. And now here we have to make note of this fact. So non-classicality is a well-defined notion even for a single mode of radiation. Now let me come to the notion of entanglement. So you have a system, two systems A and B, and with Hilbert space H8 tensor HB, and a state is said to be entangled if it cannot be written as a convex combination of product states. So, and this is the definition of entangled states. And now let me come to the definition of entanglement breaking. So here the idea is you take a channel, take a bipartite state and act the channel locally on one of the modes of the bipartite state, and if it happens that for every bipartite state the resulting state is separable, then this channel is said to be entanglement breaking. And now this notion by definition requires two parties or modes. So now we introduce this new concept of non-classicality breaking. So this is the definition. So a channel is said to be non-classicality breaking if and only if the output state rho out which is equal to the channel acting on rho n is classical for every input state rho n. That is if and only if the diagonal function for every output state is a genuine probability distribution. So, and now this notion is again well defined even for a single mode. So now let me come to the notion of the canonical form. So given a channel, you could for instance precede the channel action of the channel by a unitary and again follow it by another unitary to say bring the channel lambda to a simpler canonical form. So in the Gaussian case what you do is you take you can precede a state the channel action by a Gaussian unitary and follow it by another unitary, so that the matrices x and y which were introduced earlier, they transform in this particular manner. So here S1 S2 are canonical transformations and U1 of S1 is a unitary corresponding to the S1 canonical transformation, and U2 of U of S2 U of S2 is corresponds to S2, and x and y transform in this manner. So the thing is you can bring x and y to some simpler form using this double unitary freedom, and this is what was demonstrated by Holiou and others. Now it's clear that the canonical forms so obtained are entanglement based. For instance, if the channel lambda is entanglement breaking, then lambda prime is also entanglement breaking. So now in our situation, now we are not allowed this full freedom as previously. So we need to classify x and y into orbits, say S, x, r, and y goes to y, r transpose y, r, where S is any canonical transformation, but r is a restricted form. So r is a passive transformation in phase space. That means, so you are not allowed because you have to preserve the classicality of the state once you have performed the channel action. So for single mode Gaussian channels, we find that there are three possibilities which can occur. So you have a determinant x greater than 0, determinant x less than 0, and determinant x is 0. And for this case, the canonical x is simply given by kappa times identity, and canonical y is a 2 by 2 diagonal matrix. Similarly, for determinant x less than 0, you have kappa sigma 3 and diagonal a comma b. And in the determinant x equal to 0, you have two possibilities. That is, you can have the matrix to be rank 0 or rank 1. When it is rank 1, the y is stated simply as y, and the other case you can simplify y to diagonal a comma b. And now, so having obtained the canonical forms, now we obtain necessary and sufficient conditions for non-classicality breaking. So what we do is, this is the scheme. So for channels with non-singular x, we first arrive at a sufficient condition on the channel parameters to ensure non-classicality breaking by asking as to when will the channel transform the input state diagonal weight function to a valid Q function. So earlier I stated that Q function is pointwise positive in the complex plane. So this is a natural way to approach the problem. So we ask, when can a channel take a state given state's P function to a Q function? So that gives us a sufficient condition, and then we look for a necessary condition by looking at the signature of the output diagonal weight function for a particular input state evaluated at a particular phase space point at the output. And then what we find is that these two conditions are found to be equivalent. And then the proof for channels with singular X is obtained in an analogous manner. So now to give demonstrate the idea, so let me demonstrate for the classical noise channel, which is whose canonical form is simply identity diagonal AB. So you take the input normal ordered characteristic function of the state, and the output is related in this manner. So it is the exponent, this Gaussian factor, times the chi in of chi normally ordered input. Now, so you relabel this the parameters A and B in this form. So you can choose epsilon 1 as A minus 1 and epsilon 2 as B minus 1. And then using the ordering relation, you can rewrite the normally ordered output characteristic function as the chi input characteristic, Wigner characteristic, times this Gaussian factor. And then you can do a scaling so that you can this epsilon, you can bring the weight to be equal, and this is a canonical transformation which can be performed to bring it to this suggestive form. And then now with this choice you will find that on Fourier transformation phi out is nothing but q in of the q function of the input, where for the choice epsilon 1 epsilon 2 is equal to 1, and this gives the condition that so when epsilon 1 epsilon 2 is equal to is greater than or equal to 1, the output state diagonal weight function is a valid q function. Now to check, this gives the sufficiency part, and now for the necessary part, so you test the for instance you take the input state to be the first excited state, the first excited Fock state, and you calculate the output diagonal weight function, and this is the expression you get. And suppose we were to evaluate this function at the phase point 0, 0, and this is found to be non-negative if and only if a minus 1 into b minus 1 is greater than or equal to 1. So these two conditions are found to be matching, and the proof extends in a similar fashion to all the other channels and including channels with non-singular X. So this is the table where we summarize the results. So you have the canonical form listed here, and this is the non-classicality breaking condition, and here you have the entanglement breaking condition followed by the CP condition. So you can clearly see that it is stronger as we go from the right to the left. And similarly for the singular cases, these are the three conditions. And now so these conditions are now given schematically plotted here. So for the classical noise channel, for instance, so the coloration is that the violet is the CP condition, the maroon is the entanglement breaking, and the green is the non-classicality breaking region for choice of for the parameter A and B. And now comes the interesting part. So let me give the statement first. So this is the case. So for every entanglement breaking channel, there exists a particular value of the squeeze parameter R naught, depending only on the channel parameters and not on the input state, so that the entanglement breaking channel followed by a unitary squeezing R naught always results in a non-classicality breaking channel, and it is in this sense non-classicality breaking is equivalent to entanglement breaking for Gaussian channel. So let me explain. So suppose we start with the channel, say suppose in this region, we start with the A and B, which is here, say for instance. The channel is entanglement breaking, but clearly it's not non-classicality breaking. But the thing is, you can perform a squeezing operation which takes the parameters along this line to exactly to this point, where it becomes non-classicality breaking, and the amount of squeezing that you need to provide is independent of the input state. So the idea is you can take any non-classical state to be the input, and you can get apply an entangled breaking Gaussian channel on it, and you may get a non-classical state to be in the output. But the thing is, whatever the non-classicality of the output may be, you can remove that state's non-classicality by a single mode squeeze transformation, and the squeeze parameter is not dependent on the state. It is just dependent on the channel. And so it is in this sense, non-classicality breaking is found to be equivalent to entanglement breaking. So yeah, so this is, I would like to conclude here. This is for, so what I have proved here is for single mode Gaussian channel, so we believe that it is true also for multimode.
See, generally for classical states, we look at the P function, right?
Yeah.
The positivity of the P function. So can't we look at that? So I take the input state, single mode input state, and then apply this Gaussian channel on it, and then look at the positivity of the P function of the output state, and then figure out whether this is non-classicality.
Yeah.
So, but you have taken the Q function, right, of the output
No, no, no. So see, the idea is you want to, so non-classicality breaking, let us go to the definition. So you want to break the non-classicality of the input.
Yeah, so P function, if it is always non-negative of the output state, it will be a classical state.
Yeah, so the first question we ask is, can you transform the input P to an output Q? Because Q function is pointwise positive always by definition.
Okay.
And then you take a sampled state, like the first excited state, so that gives a necessary condition, a sufficient condition, the first part. Then you take a particular input state, calculate its output P function, evaluate that function at a point, the phase space point, 0, 0, and then you ask when is that function positive at that particular point. And we surprisingly find that it returns the same condition as the sufficiency.
I see.
So it's
Any
tight,
other
very
question?
tight.
Yeah.
It's something related with entanglement breaking channels. You have a separable form for the whatever is a whole state in a Choi-Jomyalkowski scheme kind of thing. So is there something like a channel which you represent for non-classicality breaking which resembles some state-like thing? That is there such similarities? What I want to ask.
No, definition simply says, so you have a classical coherent state diagonal distribution. That means your diagonal weight function is pointwise positive. So that will be the, see, for entangled states it's separable. Here the output is always a convex combination pointwise
Output
positive.
is separable, and the channel itself can be represented as in a higher dimensional space. It is a separable form for the entanglement breaking case. So here, if you represent a channel mathematically, does it resemble some kind of a?
Yeah. So because
That is there any characterization of such entanglement non-classicality breaking channels?
So we have proved this equivalence. So
equivalence effect-wise, whatever is the result-wise.
So if EB channel is, if you apply the same formalism whatever you have applied for EB channel, you will get the corresponding thing for the.
Well, if there are no other questions, Simon, please.
Maybe I will do some impedance matching both for Usha and Subhashis. For Subhashis, the Gaussian channel essentially does a Gaussian convolution, essentially. So you promote in the S order. So the only way P can become positive for all P is by going up in the order of S and reach all the way to Q. So I mean that's how it will be in your language. And Usha, I don't know if you agreed with what Solomon said. What he said is correct, but I mean, you are asking about the Krauser representation. It will be multiplied by the fixed squeezing unitary. So, I mean, it has a form, but it's not fantastic or astonishing.
I was struck by the amount of negative words in the title of this talk, and if we think that the world is basically quantum and that the classical phenomena are a sort of exceptional or unusual situation, you could turn your title around and say, is entanglement making equivalent to classicality breaking?
Let's put for some thought. So let's break at this point and thank Dr. Solomon for this very interesting talk.